Corporate training taught you the process, not how to win real conversations in the field. If you've ever felt overlooked or unsure how to speak up with a store manager, you're in the right place. Welcome to Built for Retail Field Reps. I'm Sylvia Gonzalez, a retail fields leader, author, and creator of the S.E.L.L.S method. This podcast breaks down what corporate never taught you about confidence, sales, and winning, so you can show up strong and trust yourself in the field. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome. This is officially our first episode, and I am genuinely so excited that you're here. Whether you're listening in the car, between stores, setting up a display, or hiding in the back room for 5 minutes of peace, this podcast is for you. And we're starting strong today. This episode is not here to hype up or tell you to grind harder. This episode is here to help you get honest with yourself. And yes, that can be a little uncomfortable because when you're in the field, especially retail, you're constantly being evaluated by managers, by clients, by leadership, but almost no one ever asks you where you're actually at. And some of you listening want to grow. You want more responsibility, more money, maybe a promotion. Some of you are actually okay with where you are, and you just want to feel confident, respected, and not feel like you're walking on eggshells all the time. And some of you, if we're being real, are tired as hell and a little checked out, but you haven't said that out loud yet. And all of those reasons are valid. But what's not helpful is pretending that you're in one place when you're actually in another. So if you don't get clear on where you stand, the field will expose it anyway. And what I mean by that is it'll show up in your conversations, in your body language, and how quickly you fold when someone pushes back, and how quiet you get when you should speak up. And no, that doesn't mean you're weak. It just means you're human. But clarity, that's a responsibility. And here's what I mean by that. If you're frustrated, but you keep saying you're fine, no one can adjust. If you want to grow, but you never say it out loud, well, no one knows to challenge you. And if you don't want more responsibility, but you keep hinting that you do, then you end up feeling resentful. Clarity is your responsibility because no one lives in your head. They respond to what you communicate, and you silently hope that they understand. But corporate doesn't ask you this. They just assume that you're fine. As long as you hit your numbers, you're fine. But, fine is usually code for avoiding the truth. So today, before we talk about confidence, sales, or execution, I just want you to pause and ask yourself one question. Where am I really at right now? And what do I actually want? Where am I really at right now in my career? And what do I actually want? Not what you should want, not what looks good on paper, but what you want. Because before you elevate, you need to get honest about where you stand. And I want to start with the quick story because I think this is where a lot of people get stuck. And honestly, where a lot of unnecessary pressure comes from. So I want to start off by saying that a few years ago, I had a merchandiser on my team who had so much potential. And when I say potential, I mean she was sharp, dependable, respected in her stores, the kind of rep that other people naturally listen to. On paper, she was exactly the type of person leadership would look at and say, wow, like she should, be a manager. But when the conversation came up, I remember I had presented her the opportunity. She didn't want that. She was so clear that she wanted to stay right where she was. She liked being part-time. She liked the flexibility. She liked having control over her schedule. And she had zero interest in overseeing an entire area. And then dealing with early mornings or being on call for everyone else's problems, like the idea of her starting her days earlier than what she was already used to, she hated it, like visibly cringed at the thought. And I remember thinking, well, good for her. Seriously, good for her, because she wasn't avoiding growth. Like, she was choosing what worked for her life. The problem is, in corporate environments, we tend to treat comfort like a flaw. Like, if you don't want the next title, the extra responsibility, the early mornings, something must be wrong, right? But you know what? That's bullshit. Not everyone wants to climb the ladder. Some people want stability. Some people want flexibility. Some people want to just do their job well and go home without carrying the weight of an entire team on their shoulders. And here's the part that matters. She was so confident in that decision. She wasn't bitter. She wasn't disengaged. She knew exactly where she stood. And because she was clear about what she wanted, she showed up strong in her role. She didn't have to second guess herself. She didn't shrink in conversations. She didn't feel behind. And that's the clarity that is just so powerful. And that's what I want to normalize here. Okay? Because the real issue isn't being comfortable. It's being unconsciously comfortable. Or worse, pretending you want more when you really don't. Or pretending you're fine when you're actually frustrated. This podcast isn't about pushing you to move up. It's about helping you get honest about where you're at, so you can show up with confidence no matter what path you're on. And so I'm sharing that story with you for a reason, because the point isn't whether you want to move up or you want to stay right where you are. The point is whether you're actually being honest with yourself about it. And this is where things get a little uncomfortable. Not because the answers are wrong, okay, but because most people never slow down long enough to ask themselves these questions. Okay, so if you're listening right now, I want you to check in with yourself, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of clarity. I'm going to walk you through a few questions, and I want you to notice what comes up. Not what you think should come up, but what actually does. Okay, and don't worry, I'm not going to grade you on this, but I do want you to do an honest self-check with yourself. Okay, and I really think that these questions are going to help you identify that for yourself. All right, so here we go. Do you feel supported where you are, or just monitored? So support feels like trust. Monitoring feels like pressure. And if you've ever felt constantly watched, but never really backed up, that messes with your confidence way more than people realize. So ask yourself, do you feel supported where you are, or just monitored? Next question. Do you feel heard, or have you stopped speaking up because it feels easier to just do your job and move on? Again, do you feel heard, or have you stopped speaking up because it feels easier to just do your job and move on. Silence doesn't mean you're fine. Sometimes it just means you're tired of explaining yourself. Next question. Are you growing or are you just surviving the week? Surviving doesn't make you lazy. It usually means you've been in reaction mode for too long. So ask yourself, are you growing or are you just surviving the week? Next question. Do you actually want more responsibilities or do you want better boundaries? So what do I mean by that? Well, more responsibility. Well, because sometimes, that phrase sounds bigger than it needs to be. It could be managing people. It could mean owning a territory. It could mean being the one others call when something goes wrong. Or it could mean earlier mornings, tougher conversations, and being accountable for more than just your own execution. Some people genuinely want that challenge, okay? And some people think they're supposed to want it. And some people don't want it at all. They just want to feel respected and steady, right where they are. But those are not the same thing. And a lot of people confuse burnout with lack of ambition. So ask yourself, do you actually want more responsibility or do you want better boundaries? And finally, in conversations with managers or clients, do you speak up or do you shrink? If you shrink, that doesn't mean you're weak. It usually means you're protecting yourself. Now, here's why I'm not just asking these questions for fun. In a field, how you feel internally shows up externally, whether you want it to or not. And when you're unclear about where you stand, hesitation shows up. And hesitation gets interpreted as lack of confidence. Even when it's not even like what is happening, it just gets interpreted that way. And I've seen incredible, capable reps get overlooked simply because they weren't grounded. They weren't grounded in what they wanted. Not loud, not aggressive, just unclear. For example, I've seen reps say that they want to grow, but when the opportunity came up, they hesitated. They weren't sure if they even wanted the schedule change or the extra pressure or the visibility that came with it. And leadership could feel that hesitation. So instead of pushing them forward, they chose someone who felt more certain. And it wasn't about talent, it was about clarity. Managers respond differently to clarity. When you're clear, your posture changes, your tone changes. You stop over explaining. You don't fold the second someone pushes back. Confidence in the field isn't about being bold or loud. It's about being grounded. And grounding starts with clarity. And I want to make this real for you because this isn't theory. I've watched this play out in real stores with real people over and over again. I've seen reps who were technically solid, but mentally checked out. Not because they didn't care, but because they didn't feel heard anymore. And here's the personal part. Sometimes that honesty didn't just magically happen. Sometimes it happened because we had a real conversation, because I asked them direct questions, because I gave them permission to say, I don't actually want that role, or I do want it, but I'm scared. One of the things I used to love when I was a TM was being out in the field, having some one-on-one time with my reps. And the moment they got honest out loud about what they wanted next, whether that was growth or stability, everything shifted. They stopped apologizing for their presence. They stopped second guessing every sentence. They didn't change who they were. They just stopped shrinking. And clarity doesn't make you someone else. It just gives you permission to be who you already are without hesitation. So if you're listening to this thinking, okay, Sylvia, this is hitting, I want to slow this down for just a second. Okay. You don't need to decide today. You need to have a 5-year plan, and you don't need to justify what you want to anyone. But what you do need is honesty, because pretending you're fine when you're frustrated or pretending you want more when you don't is what drains confidence over time. Clarity is not pressure, it's permission. Okay, and let me break that down in simple terms for you. So pressure feels like I have to figure this out right now or I'm behind. Permission feels like I'm allowed to choose what aligns with me. You see the difference? Pressure tightens your chest. Permission relaxes your shoulders. When you're clear, you're not forcing yourself into someone else's path. You're giving yourself the space to stand in your own without apology. So, if this episode made you pause, well, that's a good thing, right? And I hope that you found some value in this episode. And if you did, and you want to take this a step further, I've created a free assessment, a self-assessment for retail field reps that helps you get clear on where you're at right now, how supported you feel, and where your confidence is, and what you might need next. You can find it in the link show notes below. I'm going to put them somewhere here. And you can also go to thesalesmethod.com and go under assessment and go ahead and download it from there. And just know this is just a fun little tool, if you want to dig in a little deeper, and know that every episode I'm going to give you a lot of value that you can use in field. And next week, we're going to be talking about why corporate training doesn't actually prepare you for the field, and why that gap messes with your confidence more than anyone admits. So thank you so much for being here. I truly, truly appreciate the support. And if you have anyone in mind that might benefit from this podcast, please send them the link. Let them know about us. And I am super excited to get to know you as well as a listener. You guys drop some questions or anything else that you might want to hear, and I will make sure I put it on my rollout schedule for the future episodes to come. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you then. Bye-bye.